Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
What's up? Today on Seriously Dead, listen, if you're a step parent, a stepfather, bonus parent, bonus father, bonus grandparent, maybe you adopted someone, this is the episode for you. We know it's not easy. We give you all the praise and we talk about the hardships you go through. Check it out. Seriously Dead.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously, Dad. Two father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad.
Dad? Seriously?
Dad.
Seriously?
Seriously Dad, baby.
I'm back in
at it.
person. I'm back. I'm here.
Yes.
It's happening.
Yes.
This is
We
good.
missed you
I
so.
know, man. What have you been up to? How's it going?
You know, summer's almost over, and that hurts. That hurts me. I love summer. Always been my favorite season. And you know, the days are getting shorter. The sun, you wake up in the morning, the sun's not out, and it hurts me a little bit. But all is well. You know what I mean? I'm good. Had a great weekend. Oh, for Church of Satire. Shout out to Jim Bryan. What an establishment. Had a great show this weekend. I was there with Patrick Holbert, and Jim's been on the podcast.
Yep.
Club's looking great. He's got the ice cream place going, looking great.
Scoops of Satire.
Scoops of Satire is good. He's looking great. He looks like he's been in the gym. He shaved up. He was extremely happy, and we had just a great evening of comedy. Go to the Church of Satire, Hanover, PA. Check it out. He's doing phenomenal things.
I'm actually going to be there the 16th or something like that.
Oh, and Massenberg's going to be there. He's been on the podcast. Yoder's going to be there. I was just there last night. It's a really cool place, man. He did something really, really well.
It's just super intimate. It's fun.
Yeah.
I think it's just, and then having the ice cream next to
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You go get your last, go get some ice cream, and they were laughing. They were so happy to be out, enjoy comedy, and I had a blast, man. Everyone go see Jim Bryan at the Church of Satire. It's a great time, and there's a lot of funny people coming up.
That's cool. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you were down there on Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
How are the girls doing? Get ready.
Girls
for
are great.
school?
Yeah, you know, we had a good weekend, and I had a moment. We did a little back to school shopping. Yeah, you know, sometimes I have these moments. I get like a little
Buying
emotional.
staplers. Was in the stapler aisle.
I'm really lucky because my wife Samantha is a phenomenal step parent, and you know, that's a big deal.
That's a tough role. Step parent is a tough
That's
role.
a tough one, right? Like, and I don't even know if I know. I think I just got lucky because she was so good at it and so willing to be a great step parent that it just kind of rolled right into itself.
So what is that? It's like, what do you, did you have a step parent growing up, by the way?
I did a stepfather.
And okay, did you feel like did he do a good job?
Yeah,
or
he
what?
was cool. He was cool.
What made him cool?
He was there for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We never did a lot of heart to heart stuff. We never did that, but his presence was always calming. He was always interested in like my woodshop projects and stuff like that, and the sports I was into. And he was just a good dude. No negative energy. That's what it was. That's the answer.
You feel like Sammy embodies a lot of
Zero negative energy.
That's cool.
And that's like such a big deal because sometimes you get like that like evil stepmother.
Well, that's
like,
I mean, that's what everybody thinks about.
Yeah.
It's like Cinderella's, like,
right. And you know, we started dating, and one of the third things out of my mouth was, you know, I have a daughter, and I don't want any more.
Were you upfront about that? When
Yeah. Well, when you're single, you can't go on 4 dates and be like, oh, by the way, I have a daughter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess you could. I guess someone out there is doing it that way. And she was like, okay, and I didn't even know what okay really meant. You know, because it was, you know,
Maybe
was
she didn't know what okay really meant.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I got to process this. We're
I
bowling
like
right
guy. Yeah,
now, buddy.
exactly. I hope he doesn't think I'm paying for the date now that he's got a kid. And then she just ended up being this great stepmother. And I was sitting back watching. That's how sometimes, and I was like, I'm so lucky. They are so lucky. Like, we are so lucky to have a good stepmother. And she calls it bonus mom.
Yeah. Well, it's such a better term.
Yeah.
Like, actually, that's a good term because, like, you know, obviously. So, obviously, she didn't know she was gonna.
nobody has dreams of being
being
a
the
step
best
parent.
step-
You
yeah.
kind of get thrown into it because you're caught up with someone that you're
Yeah.
involved with now, and you're involved to a point where those kind of things are big ticket items. But if you care for that person, then they're part of the deal.
Yeah.
And so it takes a special person, I think, to
It
walk
takes
into
an
that.
incredibly special person because it's like you're not. How do I even word it? Like you weren't part of this. This isn't your thing, but you make it your thing.
Well,
and
yeah,
you
you
take
weren't
full
there for
ownership.
the origin, but
Yeah, right.
but you're there for the current chapter,
Right.
And so you're like, yeah, you had to get the cliff notes for the first part,
Exactly.
and now you hope that you can develop into
Yeah.
character, but you have to put like your own like ego aside, and like I think as a guy, I would imagine, because I can only speak to that, it's got to be tougher because you really have to bite your tongue.
Yeah.
Like you really got to. There's moments where you would say, if that was my kid, this is what I would
right.
do.
If that was
and
my
you
kid.
got to put that away, maybe in the same way that you talked about previously, like when things happen that you can't in your house that maybe they get away with in their mother's house.
Right.
It's almost like maybe in that same arena of having to be like, well, I can't control that.
Right. So
I
we're
can't,
focused on what I can.
You have to
focus on.
constantly. I feel like you have to constantly have those moments. She must always have to have those moments with herself.
Yeah, she leads with love, and I guess that's
There
what
it
it
is.
is. She
That's a
leads with
beautiful-
love.
she
Yeah,
leads with love.
fucking mark that one down.
That
baby.
is a beautiful.
She
one.
does. She leads with love, and when you're coming from this good place of just like I love you and I want to be there for you and I want to help you and I want to see you have the best life ever. That's what shows up.
Yep.
You know. But I knew kids growing up, like their relationship with their stepmom or stepdad was like negative. Like, oh yeah, Ken's here. I fucking hate that guy, and I don't even really talk to him, and I couldn't imagine like dealing with that, like bringing that energy into your household.
Yeah, so I have a couple things that come to my mind. Like one was a friend of mine, a good buddy of mine growing up, Trevor. He had a stepfather come into his life, and it was very he was fighting it at first, and I think that's I know I naturally in my own situation had step parents.
So Trevor was fighting it.
Trevor
Young
was
man
fighting
okay.
it. I think Mario, his stepdad, was trying to push, and then ultimately it's like it's almost like when you tell a joke at first and you're building tension sometimes with the audience, you got to keep telling it until it breaks through.
Yeah.
And it's that same persistence that I think a step parent needs to have, because ultimately Trevor at one point took his last name. And
Oh,
so
really?
eventually, as
So
a
that's-
teenager, made the decision to take the stepfather's last name.
So question was Trevor's father
Trevor's dad was not
around-
even ever in
ever
the
around,
picture.
okay.
So that makes a difference, I think, too, because then there is a void there.
Yeah. But
Whereas-
there's also probably anger there, right? Was
Yeah.
Trevor's probably angry that his dad wasn't around. Now I got to like be this guy's kid, and right, and I don't know if I want to even be that. And then the stepdad said Mario's name was
Mario, yeah.
Mario's got to like have thick skin and be. It's like being a salesman. You got to have thick. You got to just keep on calling people on the phone. They're going to say no. They're going to be rude, and you just got to keep on plugging away. And I guess some people aren't built for it because like I said, I knew people who hated their step parents. Hated them. And then you wonder, well, why did they keep you around? Because that's the other thing, right? If Sammy wasn't a good stepmother, would I have her in their lives as a negative influence?
I guess it depends on how good she's at the other stuff.
So the answer is yes, I would have kept her around, okay?
Well, it's too, 'cause, like, are they with you all the time? Like, neighbors across the street from me just moved in, and they're like a modern day step-by-step Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah?
Where, like, I think she had 4 and he has 2.
Oh, shit, okay.
But, like, they don't have full custody of each. Like, there's only like 3 of the 6 that are like there all the time between the other parents. But like, yeah, I mean, when you have those kind of situations, then it's like, well, we can make it work when we're together. We can find ways to. But yeah, I mean, whenever you're in that part where you're melting families together, that's, I mean.
Yeah, and then there's like, the way she did it when she was a child was different than the way we were doing it when she walked into this situation. And then Sammy, she's got to like kind of acquiesce to the way we do things. And even that's a tough transition, because if you're watching something that you're not comfortable with or is unnatural to you, and then it's like, well, you got to get on board with it because that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, you need to have enough reps of that before you guys talk marriage, I would think, so that they really get enough plate appearances to say, oh, I see how the game's played, and either do I want to jump in or is it too much for me?
Yeah. And if Sammy would have said, hey, kids, not for me, I would have been like, then hang on. I would have been like, hang on. because these kids are going to be around. They're part of my life.
Yeah.
they're in there. They're part of the game. And maybe we wouldn't have kept going because I wouldn't have wanted her to be a negative influence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they love it. They love her, and she loves them back. And I'm so lucky because if it was different, I mean, I don't know. You think you could be a step parent?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, you could
Because I think
handle
even as a teacher, I feel like a step parent every day.
I guess that's a
You know
really
what I
good
mean?
point.
So like, I feel like I understand. I feel like I totally could have done it. And it's someone who had, I had a few step parents. It was sort of because obviously my parents were married as like a normal Norman Rockwell picture for 2 years, and then when they both their separate ways, my dad got married to another woman.
Oh,
And so I had a stepmother. So I had a step. I guess I wish the term bonus mom because Colleen wasn't my stepmom. She was like my other mom. Like they met and were together by the time I was like 4 or 5.
the step is like a little bit of a like ooh.
So I
right?
had both at each house now because my mom had now been in a committed relationship with another woman, and then my dad was married to another woman. But like it was the opposite where like I was only around my dad's every other weekend maybe, but she did never have kids, wasn't in a relationship before that was thinking about kids. So she wanted to be a parent, but she just was too energetic about it and too pushy. She was trying to like replace my mom kind of thing.
Right. That's the other dynamic of it.
And I was too pushy. Like she would try to like punish me and she was in a household where they like I think I mentioned this before, like tried to get me to kneel on frozen peas for like talking back to her. And like once my dad found that out, he was like that was not something he wanted to talk about. But
yeah, I think you're right with the whole step thing. I didn't realize that this was from the old English via German, which meant orphan. Like it's really rough. I was like, oh, bonus parent is much better.
Much better.
You know, we're gonna just start calling them bonus parents, bonus mom, bonus dad, because step is like negative as fuck.
That's rough.
Everybody's like, we're using the bonus now because I was hearing that where people were talking about like bonus holes, and I'm like, I don't want to get into it. But that's where my head went. As soon as I heard you guys say bonus parent, I'm like, is that like, wait, this is very woke all of a sudden. But no, I think that's a term because I hated not having a term because she wasn't my stepmom. My mom was also there. They were both together.
Right.
But so so that was interesting because like my dad marrying that woman, she really is, her heart was in the right place. She just like struggled to what's funny.
Okay, hold on. What's going on back there?
Well, we just opened the door because if you have a bonus mom or a bonus dad or something, but if it's bad,
it's a negative.
Then it's like it's like I got a penalty dad.
That's right, a penalty mom.
Stinks.
And actually, I ran into my former stepmother at a funeral for my dad's sister, and we ended up having lunch together, sitting down at the table having lunch together.
Wow.
And it was like one of those things that's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I know she didn't have anybody else to talk to, and she still kept my dad's name. They've been divorced for like 30 years. And so she really tried to hold on to that. And I get that. Like, you know, if she didn't have family and that was nostalgic, but she was still trying to remind me of things when she tried to, help me with my homework when I was in
like,
fourth grade.
Yeah.
I'm like,
when you were 7, you were struggling.
and I was like, and I was trying to like abide by that and like be mindful of her and her feelings. We're at this funeral, we're at this luncheon. I'm just trying to yes and improv it. But it was like one of those things where I could tell she wanted a relationship that I didn't want to reciprocate.
Yeah.
And that was painful because I hated that I didn't want it. You know what I mean? I felt guilty that I didn't want it.
See, that's the other dynamic of this whole.
But I'm flooded. There's too many women in my life. I got too many moms.
Well, that's the thing with this whole bonus parent thing.
I'm stocked up on moms.
We're done. Resumes are in. We're done.
We're done. The books are closed on that one.
But you know what I mean? Like,
well, the bonus thing, the penalty, bonus mom, whatever you want to call it, it is a very interesting dynamic because what happens when that person goes away? Right? Like, let's say you have a bonus mom that you love. This lady is awesome. And because of the relationship, she has to get out, right? No, it has nothing to do with you. You know, you're empty. Like, you just went through another divorce, essentially, right? Like, you're empty. This lady was awesome. Now she's not around. Do you still be friends with that person? Like, that's fucked up.
So I even more heartbreaking. So now the other side to kind of leads off of that, the bonus mom that I had, Colleen, growing up with my mom, that they were together 6 years of, well into college. And Colleen had a family before me. She had 5 kids. She had they were all older. And so she had been a full-fledged mom for years. And so she had that down. And at first, when they were together, I fought it really hard because I lived with them, so I was with them all the time. And then there was the added pressure of, they're in a same-sex relationship. We're in a small town. We're trying to not let everybody know our business and air our laundry, but also
Anne Frank in the fucking house.
So it's like this weird dynamic, and it's all of the normal dynamics like my friend Trevor was experiencing with just not wanting someone taking your mom's attention.
Yeah.
So and I remember I would get passive aggressive, and I would use prom well, why is she here? And then that would set my mom off.
You piece
and just
of
because
shit.
she has a name, she pays half the rent. She
is part of our fucking family. Is really what it is.
Well, that's
stop
just
saying
it.
that.
And she always led with love. She always
Yeah.
led with love, and she was tough when she needed to be on me. And I just remember being such a jerk. I was such a jerk.
Such a little asshole.
She's driving me to karate. She's doing all this stuff for me. And I would get embarrassed by her, and I would just be so.
You have a chip on your shoulder.
She learned to drive while she was here. She was from Australia. She had learned to drive later in life, and so the one time she was taking a turn back from karate, and she took it too wide, and she kept hitting the curve, and she just was backing up, and I'm I'm gonna die of embarrassment.
Oh my gosh.
I'm but I just remember being hard on her, and then all of a sudden over 25 years you're together, just it breaking through, and then it was a beautiful relationship. And then the sad part was after college and I was away, she was much older than my mom, so she retired earlier. My mom was still working. Her kids were now older and she had grandkids, and so she had Parkinson's, and she was deteriorating, and my mom was trying to work to help, and it was very tough. And her kids actually swooped in and kind of took her away while my mom was at work one day and brought her to Pittsburgh to help be part of the family there. And she wasn't in a position to not do it, or she didn't want to be a burden on my mom, and it was this painful thing.
Holy
that
shit.
She got
pretty
kind of
heavy.
yanked out of my life, and I didn't get a say in this. And
Yeah,
I'm an
wow,
adult at this
dude.
point. But
That's heavy. That's some
it
heavy
was
shit.
super heavy. And
Wow.
and then she passed last February.
Okay.
And I never got resolution. By the time I had gotten back to her, and my mom and her had gotten to a place where they were back at least talking, and she was the Parkinson's was so much that it was she wasn't the same person when I saw her.
Dude, that's that last part. That's incredibly sad, man.
It is.
That's
It is. It was
pretty
sad for my mom too. That was her
Yeah.
companion forever.
And
but
that was just taken away.
But that's also a thing about, when people are in these relationships where there's a huge age gap.
Yeah,
There are things that, when you're in the moment, and 25 years ago,
Right.
10, 15 years might not have been a
Not
big
a big
deal.
deal. And now it's
But when you're 50 and your partner's 65 with Parkinson's, now all of a sudden that's a different beast. And, that's tough. So it's
Yeah.
one of those situations that nobody, you fault nobody, but it's wow, it's just life's messy. Life is
life's
not
fucked up, man.
And so, but the evolution of her as a step parent or as a bonus mom for me was so special because
Yeah.
it meant so much to
I
me
can see-
by
I
the
can
end
see that.
because she stood the trial by fire. And I think if step parents can stand that trial by fire,
Yeah.
that opening, and they can lead with love like Sammy is the whole time,
Yep.
then you take a lot of hits. So there's a lot of internal bruising, I would imagine, of the ego.
Yeah.
But the payoff in the end, because they feel like it's almost like they feel like they came from you, even though they didn't.
Now, see, the one of the things is she became your bonus mom a little later in life. Teenager, maybe?
I would know. Colleen came into my life when I was about 8.
Okay. Sammy came into Laney's life when Laney was about 3.
Okay.
So there is, that transition of
The memories,
Yeah.
they always have a memory of her.
Exactly. So
That's
but
important.
That was cool. Even when they first met, they had a connection when they first met. I have pictures of them looking at each other, and you can see that Laney is looking at her like, I accept you.
That's cool.
And she's looking at Laney like, I adore you. And we never had to ever deal with anything crazy like that which is fucking great. I tell you, I'm so thankful. And like, sometimes you hear stories that like, it's usually, I feel like usually stepdads are more of the assholes than bonus moms.
Yeah, it's got to be.
But you hear stories about stepdads where you're like, why is your mom keeping this dude around?
Yeah. Well, did you ever see Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
So that's like your quintessential like jerk. Do you remember the
he was
stepdad
like,
in
you
that?
did this, we get the Pepsi deal, right?
Yeah, and
That
he's
was-
like, and he's like, and then she like, and he ends up getting like, I remember at the one scene where he's like at the door and he finally gets hit with the door and then
Yeah.
he's like falling down. He's in that crappy car that he can barely fit in. It's like, that's like almost the cartoon version of that, like, dad who's like he's not really there to be a stepdad until he saw something in it for himself.
That was like,
you know what I mean? Because then he's like trying to be his manager, and he's got this like, he's got this look. So that's almost like the other version of Cinderella's stepmom. You know, it's like that's the one that's easy to say. Oh, that guy's not here for the right.
Oh
reason.
shit! Speaking of which, do you see this thing about The Blind Side? Have you seen this?
Oh, so that he's filed the actual
Michael Orr is his name? Is that how you
Michael
pronounce his name?
Orr,
Yeah.
had filed that they were like, I guess they were
Pimping
doing
his
it.
fucking life, apparently.
Yeah.
is what yo, they made a fucking movie, made all this money. Look, it's one thing, like, it happened. I'm pro.
Yeah.
They try to set me up to take my money. Life goes on. Then you're like on TV, like your life is being portrayed by Sandra Bullock being the fucking hero of the world. And you're like, none of this fucking happened. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy that is like.
Turns out there's, what? We exploited the poor again. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
no,
What?
yeah.
Insane. Yeah. But yeah, if you've been laying up on that, yeah, the story was wildly exaggerated, and it's not how it went at all. He wasn't paid, or even from the movie. So that's what the suit is about.
Oh, he didn't even make any money off of the
How the
movie.
fuck do
The
you
film
not give
earned
this guy
more than
anything?
$300 million at the box office and was nominated for the best Oscar. Now, however, Omar and the former NFL player allegedly, the crux of the story, the white family adopted a homeless, is a lie, and that the family exploited his name and story for years to enrich themselves.
So they profited off the movie, and he didn't.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Wow. I know.
Did he own Taco Bell's like they said in the movie? I wonder. Remember on the movie, it was
dad
like,
or
and the dad, because the SJ was like, hey, I need more of those like taco or quesadilla, like, because I wondered if they were already wealthy, that's a sin. Like, you always hear about that, people who like when the foster care system, like that they'll acquire kids almost like a puppy mill because then they can make
get
money
some
off
money
it,
and
or they're
shit,
getting, and that's how they sustain themselves so that they don't
That's
have
a
to work.
stepmom.
Yeah,
That's
an evil stepmom.
but I think
stepmom.
that's where it comes from. I think it's like those. Why do we have those characters as so identifiable? And it must be because there was such that happening where it looked like they were leading with love, but they weren't. They were.
I mean, don't you think if you were that family, you'd be like, hey, we better give this dude some money or it's going to come out, right? Let's like, hey, we got like these 80
Well, they're like,
million or
he's an
whatever.
NFL star. Like, he's making bank. They must have thought that he like.
Yeah.
Like, what did he care? Maybe he would, get enough notoriety. Maybe he'll get some more ads out of it and get more. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he would get some deals out of that. But
Yeah, well now I mean now they look evil, and it's kind of, they look bad, and even people associated with the movie kind of look bad.
so now you want to know the real story, don't you? I kind of
yeah,
want to know the real.
see. That's what should happen. That should be the punishment.
Didn't they
Like,
used to do that on E? They'd make those dramatics, like of Saved by the Bell, and like the real behind the scenes of what it was really like. And I want the E Hollywood story on.
Yeah, E
like,
True Hollywood Story.
Yeah, I want the real E True Hollywood story
of the
on
Blind
Michael
Side.
Orr.
I mean, talk about, he's the one who got fucking blindsided. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
Is that the twist right there?
That's what they need to call it. But it's like I saw a BuzzFeed article that was kind of like people calling for Sandra Bullock to like return the Oscar. And I was like,
I mean,
and then
that's
it was
not
like,
really her fault.
yeah, well, that's it. And so the actual actor from The Blind Side who played Michael Orr was like defending her, saying like, it's not
How
her
you gonna
fault.
get angry
had,
at
like,
her? She didn't.
She
yeah,
played a role, then she played it beautifully.
Well, yeah,
and-
because Americans look at, for some reason, the celebrities, we hold them up as like icons. So
Like-
it's just like, she
they're-
did this.
they're
It's like,
better,
she
like,
just,
yeah.
it was a job. She went there for
she
a
didn't-
job.
Yeah, it was a job. She executed it.
But see, that's what
beautifully.
happens now. Everyone associated with that movie.
I love that
yeah.
movie too. Now I'm not gonna be able to watch that movie. I love that
You're
movie.
not going to be able. Yeah, you
It was a
can't
movie
enjoy
that,
it.
like, no matter what, if I was on a plane ride and there was no other like movie around, I would watch it.
Sorry.
I was like,
I had a site pop up. And they don't like it. They didn't mute it. So I apologize for anybody listening. If you heard if you heard a second of The Blind Side, I apologize.
but like that was actually Amanda and I saw that movie on New Year's Eve at Disney of all places. We had gone.
Jesus, so you were in it. You were.
We
you're
were.
part
It
of
was that was
movie.
when it came out, and we were like, I don't know. We didn't want to go out and like party. Like we were like old. I guess we were already feeling like we were old. So we were in downtown Disney, and we went out to dinner and whatever. And we just let the night. And we're like, oh, it's playing. And so actually, the movie let out right before midnight, so we were able to go out and like watch the fireworks.
Gotcha.
But it was like I loved that movie. I was like, oh, it was so cool. I remember seeing it, thinking like I could just watch this movie.
Well, you
forever.
felt like, wow, look at these great people doing this great thing, and then it turns out it was a sham. And now you got to wonder, what is his relationship like with those people? Like, what were theirs? They were step.
It's got to be like it's got to be like the Britney Spears scenario of like the dad being the conservator, and because it seems like that's the case that he filed. Apparently, last Monday he filed some kind of petition legally in court. So you don't do that. I would think that at that level, unless there's something happening where somebody's off the rocker, there must have been something to push him to ultimately do that. Maybe
I think he
financial.
saw. Wait, these people made $300 million, and I made nothing. Like,
Yeah. Something's got to give there. So, but that's great. But that's, those are where I think the bad stories about
those evil.
step-parents come.
Yeah. That's how it works.
Or, or you marry the father or the person thinking thinking that like, oh, well, they only have to be till they're 18. So I only have to survive
I get out of
these
this
every other weekend deals.
So yeah, E.T. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that is just the fact that they're not representing it is bad. Like he didn't really, the academic issues that they said he had really weren't the way they were, in the movie that they portray is not accurate. Really, he already knew about football. He played he understood a lot,
right? Because in the movie they teach him about football.
The two people that apparently like found him or whatever never existed. That wasn't a thing that happened. He was one of 12, and he was happy that it exposed the child care system, like the adoption system, and like what it was like and that kind of thing. He was happy about that, but he's like, it's just not, a lot of it is just depicted.
I think
very. He wasn't adopted by them. He was. He's like he was not adopted by them at all. It's pretty bad the way they just again, but we do this all the time, right?
I seriously dated a girl for a while that I was engaged to who was adopted and was part of that scene, and she was actually had a family that was sort of like that, where they were taking on so many kids. And the father had been disabled, and it was his mother, and they had these two houses like attached essentially, and so between them they had like 10 to 11.
Because what happens? You adopt,
kids.
and then you get like
you get money every
$800 a
month. You get
or
money
something?
every month to put towards them. So if you're thinking like, well, they only need X, Y, and Z, and we have the house, we
have
own
the
the
space,
house.
so we just use this
We're
extra
not paying a
bedroom and-
mortgage, so
yeah.
it's like we only have to pay so much for groceries because we shop in bulk or whatever. Then maybe they're able to take the rest of
Pocket
that
if
money
you
and survive that way and whatever. And if they're leading with love and they're doing all that stuff, then maybe that's okay.
I feel like you very seldom hear that story of the ones who lead with love. You always hear about the ones, but I still, how do you continue to get? I mean, if I'm wording this right, why do they keep on giving you children? Because I know people who have tried to adopt, and it is extremely challenging.
Right.
You got to jump through a lot. It takes like 4 years, and like you almost have to be perfect. Which I think maybe the standards should be lowered a bit, because there's people who are still in the system, and they could be with someone who's not perfect but will lead with love, right? But how do you have like 6 kids, then you get 2 more? Like I don't understand. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the system itself, it'd be interesting to talk to someone. The system itself is broken. So I think it might be easier to be a foster parent because it's temporary, and maybe there's less credentials other than you have a place for them to rest their head at night.
Yeah.
And
Comes down to
and then the
space.
because the
Like, if
foster
you're
they stay
able-
for
because
the
otherwise, where are they
adoption,
going to go?
for
They
the-
can't stay in they can't stay in the social worker's office. So it's like, I think there's such a need that, it's sad that, because I think you're right. What a gift for a step parent or someone who can't have kids. So I think that's the beauty. I have a friend, and not that he can't have kids, but he has taken on 3 kids. He's in a committed relationship with my friend Stephanie. His name's Ivor, and he, which is just a cool name.
Yes,
But we were all childhood friends, and then over time they have this relationship now, and they're basically married. And she had 3 kids. And he came in when those kids were young and their dads weren't there. And he's been their dad. He's the one standing at their graduation in the photos.
Yeah.
He's the one
that's the
taking
move.
them to the beach every weekend. And he just stepped in, and he's just a guy that leads with love. He's a great dude. And he just had such a good attitude about it. He wasn't like overthinking it or overanalyzing it. He just was there, and when they needed him, and would step back when they were pushing back, and he let Stephanie do a lot of the discipline and stuff unless she needed backup.
Yeah.
And
well, the discipline that's probably the hardest thing of any of the bonus step, whatever, is the discipline. Because number one, the kid always has the silver bullet. You're not my real dad,
That's right.
mom, right? That's the one, and that's supposed to hurt very badly. I don't know if it does hurt. No one's ever said that to me. But I don't know if it does hurt or if it's just something that rolls off your shoulders.
you don't get that with Sky. Doesn't mention
No,
it.
she's
Okay.
never said you're not my real dad. So that's cool. And if she did, I don't even know if that would hurt me because she's actually right. I'm not. I mean, she's not lying.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
not. I would be like, yeah, you're right, but we're still gonna have to do X, Y, and Z. But there's always that like silver bullet.
Yeah, you should be like, I know, I love you anyway, which is insane.
Right.
You know, I don't have to. You know what I mean?
I used to tell a joke like it's like a friend of a friend whose dad banged your girl. Like that's what like a stepchild is. You know what I mean? Like, but like so there's always like you're not my. There's that, and then it's like, am I doing it the way you want it to be done? Right? Because like your biological mom or your biological dad. If what if I come from a home where we spank and you don't spank? So now it's discipline time, and I start like, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like we don't do that here. And then it's like, oh, I'm,
Well, and that's what I ran into with my stepmom, my dad's second wife, because that's all she knew how. So when I was with her, and that's how she was raised, so she was gonna try to roll that out, and it wasn't flying. She tried to like the frozen pea thing I talked about earlier.
Oh, that's right.
That's like the same style of that thing, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. You're crazy. Like, and so it's just that. Yeah, so I think there could be innocent hiccups where you think you're handling it the way it's supposed to be done. And if you're in charge of them because, your spouse who's their actual parent is at work, then you might run into some situations where you overstep your bounds, but conversations clearly need to be had about what you're able to do. If I was going to be married to someone and they were going to be with my kids, they would have to know what tools are in their tool belt.
Right.
Because it's almost like the actual parent has to give the tools.
Here's
and
what
say,
you
here's
use.
here's what you have at your disposal. Yeah. This is what you can use. You're not allowed to go here and get anything with.
Don't do this. Don't swing.
It's
don't
not
do that.
1970 anymore, where like anyone at the store can
Can
just whoop
whack
your
your
kid's
kid.
ass.
So I don't know how many. I mean, not being in that situation, I don't know. Did you and Sammy ever have a conversation about?
I don't really think I don't even know. I don't think we did have a conversation. It was like, are you prepared to take this on? And, and it was like, yeah. Okay, cool. I think I was like, I probably said I don't hit my girls. We don't curse, and
It'd be great in your.
Well, she was
marriage vows.
around it. She was around, and if she lays back and is a little bit of a wallflower when she's around you with your kids, then she sort of sees what tools you're using.
Exactly.
I mean, heck, that's how I parent. I watch my wife, and then I see what she does, and then I try to do what she does.
Wow,
that's how I. That's
Like,
how
oh,
I.
shit,
I was
That
gonna hit
was
her in the
good.
mouth,
Totally
but
different.
like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
did
yeah.
it way nicer.
Yeah.
That
We
was
don't
okay,
do that.
okay,
You're
good,
okay.
good.
Yeah, so it's like
good, it's
that's
fine.
how I find the verbiage to use with the girls, like because you don't want to say don't and no. You want to find ways to because words matter, the way you say things. Because now I run into this with my mom. I hear my mom say stuff to the girls, and it's even simple stuff. And I've said this before, like oh you're so beautiful, or oh you don't want people to think this, so you got to come
Yeah, you don't.
comb
That's
your
not
hair.
something. That's not something.
And she's operating like even before I came here, my wife had to plan this new teacher lunch for the union, and so she had to get all of the drinks and stuff, and she had coolers. Well, she put them outside her car on the driveway there, and they'd been sitting there for like 2 or 3 days now. It was
of course.
It was like Thursday or something. So my mom's like getting all, she's like dumping out, and she's trying to move it around, and And I'm like, Ma, like, relax. Like, you're going to fall over trying to do this. She's like, well, I just don't want people seeing this in the yard and doing this. I'm like, so what? It's
hell?
a cooler sitting in a driveway. It's not a big deal. Like, what do you, but she just had this like mentality of the way things had to be done. And I think when people operate from that gets things into danger because it might not, it might not,
it doesn't
jive with the way that person is. And so, it's hard to swallow your pride and coexist sometimes like that. I don't
It's
know.
interesting about because it's kind of two instances you've said already that are societal pressures that some people write into their kind of ethics, which technically they're not. Like, well, obviously with you giving your mom, your stepmom at the time, guff, just because really it sounds like you're expressing societal stuff. Like, well, why is she here?
Yep.
Is basically what people would be yelling.
Yeah,
you know what I
driving
mean?
by
Like
your
you're
house
saying
and-
what's society because you at least know that like something's bad. I don't know what is wrong and why I feel this way. And then the same thing with your mom because it's like an older generation. They're just like, we can't have coolers outside. You're like, Mom, take a smoke this.
So it's just it is, and people have preconceived ideas, and so when two families come together, that's why I think of like all of the sitcoms that tried to portray that. I mean, the Brady Bunch was your classic.
The Brady Bunch.
Early
was
on.
it Family Ties? Was that the one?
I know Step by Step was a big one. More new
was
age. That was
Family
like
Ties?
90s. Family Ties.
Step by Step was with the Code Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Step by Step, Patrick Duffy, they each came with their own kid. That was like the modern version of the Brady Bunch. But they were tackling issues, and so that's the one where you're watching how Patrick like deals with the kids who aren't his, and how they're and so that's that was a classic thing for me to watch and see how those two.
Yeah.
There was a show for a while, My Two Dads, which actually the girl from Step by Step was the girl in it. I forget her name, but she was the girl in
That's
it.
the guy. That was a movie
It was
or a
Paul
television
Reiser's TV show. So it was these two guys who like were fighting over whose apartment it was, and the judge ruled that they both got the apartment if they like.
Raised
If they had this girl,
I
like it
know.
was so. It
This
was
was gonna-
so weird.
It's a shame too because this was going to be the name of the podcast, but it was already taken.
How did it get?
That's a creepy ruling, Judge. All right,
It
you two
really
got to
was.
raise this girl now, or you both got to get out of this rent
Oh, it
control
felt like he
thing.
was doing it sort of cool. Maybe you two should, work it
Yeah,
out.
maybe you guys like each
You're
other.
like,
I don't know.
all
It's a
right,
nice
How did
beard he's
this
got
get
there. Let me get
greenlit?
you-
Like how did this pass
Well,
through?
I think probably it was
Somebody's
one
like-
of those things that was maybe ahead of its time, and they were like, "Hey,
Right.
this is part of the world. Let's
they were-
try to introduce this on the slide," and this is how they did it.
But they were
put
supposed to be
these
two bachelors. They weren't
Yes.
even like.
Oh yeah, this
Like in a
is
relationship.
what this entire show is about. Unfortunately, I know because this entire show is gay jokes. That's
But that's why I
entire
was like,
show
gay innuendo
is
and
based
shit. Yeah,
on like two
totally,
men. We're
totally.
not, but we're not gay.
Oh,
And
we're
there's
just
a
friends, and then
Yeah.
they
that
played
was
a laugh track.
all the
and then-
'90s hinged on.
That's what I was hoping. I was like, oh my god, is this gonna be a story that I can relate to?
No.
And it was kind of like how I had to live my life. Like it was that, but you play it off that it was.
Well, see, so I was gonna say, is there a TV show where there's like just two flat out gay parents, but Modern
Family
has
has Cam.
those are two gay dudes.
Yeah, raising
yeah.
raising a girl that they adopted.
I would say Bewitched. Wasn't there that older gay guy that was always there? No,
Bewitched.
But
no,
no,
yeah,
but now it's just, I mean, really just Modern Family was the first one. And then
Yeah.
there's allusions, I think, sometimes like, oh, Kyle's dad's or, whatever the case is. But that was the first that was kind of pioneered it because that was like.
I actually wanted to ask you. We're kind of going back. You dated a girl who had been adopted, raised by. I think the adoption is a challenging thing. I think the way we word it, I think the term "given up for adoption."
right.
That's kind of a fucked up thing to say right? Like, she was given up for
Yeah.
people just quit on her.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah, right.
And a lot of times, like, imagine like, oh, this is we adopted. Yeah, her parents gave her up when she was 3.
Put her up for adoption.
Yeah, like
give her
wow,
for
isn't that's
adoption.
a heavy ass way to word
That's a heavy.
that.
I mean,
right?
a lot of when those situations happen, you got to figure like even. Well, there was the one episode when you got hitched. We had Joey in the house, and we had a guy, Paul Lyons. Like it was seniors in high school, not ready. They did the Catholic closed adoption, so they had the baby, and then the goal was to immediately put it up and then never know, so that baby can go and be raised
And live their life.
Right.
and live their life, and we can move on from this. But that and so I think when it's done like that, you're trying to make the best of a situation rather than the alternative. of like maybe aborting the baby. So now you're like, this child deserves a life, and if I'm not ready or committed to giving it, then there are people out there that are ready, and that's a beautiful thing. But when but then the other issue, like I know the girl I was referring to, who I was engaged to, she really had a bad. They were not. It was not. It was a situation that the way she was born, how her parents were when she was born, there was just no possible way.
To get out of there.
It was not even an option.
So you would call that rescued by adoption? Like, why wouldn't you deem that person was rescued by adoption? I mean, I don't know.
But even then, and it's like it went through a lot of foster care prior to that. There were there was a long road to that, and so I know that was something that she's had to reconcile with over the years. But now, I think the beauty of the situation is the people who go through that now can set a path for how they want to be parents. So like the people who are the kids through adoption, through step parents, when they go out, and now you've got examples and non-examples for how to be. So even if you came from a mess, you have this opportunity to lay your own path. And I think that is what's the power of, no matter how bad your life was, you have the ability to pay it forward.
We got to get someone on who went through that process.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
That would be really cool. Because I do have questions. Like, do you go from foster family to foster family to foster family?
Typically, that's could be very
kind of
typical.
bounce around. So you're in school district A, and then now you're in school district B, and these people are really religious. These people are hippies. These people are Jewish, and now you're like, oh, I'm living my life this way.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I think that is
until you're 18. Yeah.
You know, I think that can be the path for some people, and some people get lucky. I think there's a lot of, but it'd be interesting to talk about.
It's a shame the stigma around adoption. Because let's say if the foster system or like adoption system was better, let's just say it was, but it's a shame that even the stigma of it is tainted. Just because it's like you talked about leading with love. It's like, what's more, a parent realizing that they might not be able to give a kid a good life and they can't handle it, and trying to just take that up. Or what's better, they suffer with the kid and put them in more danger possibly, or risk of failing. Like, it's actually really kind of beautiful, or a thing done out of love to give them up. It's interesting.
And I think I think that the ending, what my takeaway from the whole thing is, no matter how rough it was for that child, now I think that we're resilient. Us as humans, we're resilient. So like you can come from those ashes and rise again as a phoenix. And I think that then you get to when you're an adult now, you get to say, okay, this is how it's going to be. And I've seen the road, and I've seen different roads, and I've been with different families, and now you can use that and turn it into something beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key.
Yeah, that Paul Lyons story. Yeah, and it's like I don't remember any. They didn't have any ill will towards each other. It was just like that's what happened because we needed to do it.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, the Paul one is an easy, like that one. The son had found them through the 23andMe, but it was more of a medical thing. He wanted to know medically, should there be things he should be thinking about?
Oh,
should like, were there common things in their families that, so he wasn't missing a void. That was what was beautiful about that story. The kid wasn't looking for a parent.
For love. He was just looking for biology.
He was looking for, he was looking for to know about that stuff, and to know, are there any
because aren't you not supposed to be in contact? Isn't that like
and that's deal? And that was the thing. And so the mother, the woman in that scenario, stayed true to that. She didn't want contact, but Paul and him have a relationship now. Wow. And they meet up. They're actually working on a documentary together because he's a writer. And
yeah, it's tough too. When the first time you meet your dad, you're like, also cholesterol, dude. It is bad.
Triglycerides.
Because I came here for I didn't know how bad it was. You gotta seriously, you too.
But so I think that was where that was coming from. So that was another one where, because of the way they did it, it's kind of like what you're saying with Lainey. Like her first early memories are gonna always, Sammy's always gonna be in her early memories. So there's this kind of seamless transition where, of all of them, I don't remember being less than 3. So you know what I mean? Like, so at that point,
for her,
that's the beauty of when it happened so early. Whereas like for my buddy Trevor, for myself, we were much older. And so now I didn't really ever remember my parents being together, but it was always just me and my mom, and she had dated people, and some of them at varying degrees prior to that. So I had,
now that's weird. That's weird though, also, isn't it?
That is
when your mom's dating people and maybe they're around for 3 months and they're gone, and then
Yeah.
they come to the house and they're like, "Hey, you slugger!"
Now
and they're
most of
doing
the
like all
time
that,
it's like, yeah.
all that bullshit stereotypical. Hey, I bought
You
you a
should've saw it,
baseball
yeah.
glove.
What
And
is
you're like,
that?
all right, dude, get the fuck out. You're not going to be around much longer. Go on, right?
All the other softball women that brought in gloves, hey, slugger.
You be
I
gone
won
in
a
a
national
week.
championship with this one.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, but that's also a weird one too. Because sometimes, see, I didn't have my mom. Was
Those
not
could be
dating a lot
fun
of
though.
people.
Those, in my experience, were more fun because they were trying to like win brownie points
Yeah.
with you, and if it was good, so then it was like, oh, let's go to Chuck E. Cheese, let's do this. So then you're like, I feel like those are, they're trying to.
Cheryl
build.
gets me
Yeah.
ice cream every day.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Like,
And then
who's getting the
100%.
Sega Genesis? Like, what's the
Yeah,
what's the
yeah,
real
right.
shit coming in here?
Oh, I realize now that because I'm single in the age that I'm single, yeah, like a
are-
lot of the
you
ones
are in-
I might be
yeah.
a stepdad one
That's
day.
right.
Yeah.
that's
There
right.
you
That'd
go.
be great. I'd be pumped. I'm
There
excited.
You go. You
know,
may.
a
You
lot
would be a
of-
good
yeah.
stepdad. Yeah.
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah.
I mean, and like in my situation, Sky, I am not her biological father either,
Mm-hmm.
and Sammy's not her biological mother. So that's just a child that is
With two strangers.
yeah. That is a child.
We
that
don't have
just said-
papers on her
Yeah.
just in case
Well, we
anybody
just agreed
asks.
we're gonna love you like you were, and that was.
Now, are
it.
you
Isn't
emergency contact info? You have anything like? Because
it?
I mean,
Probably.
I was going
probably.
to say like it's
Jay's
kinda-
starting to, yeah.
Well, it's weird because like you have to take her to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, she falls down, she breaks a bone while you guys are out doing whatever. You got to take her
Yeah.
in.
How do you guys know this young lady?
Yeah, right?
like,
Trust me, it's cool.
yeah, don't worry about it.
But like it's funny because like those things. But now we're in a world now where like there are so many ways. There's so many different ways to answer the equation that it's like we all get that. It's not a typical nuclear family. Like
Yeah.
we're well beyond the fact that we know there's a lot
Well,
of
we did
shades
have
of-
that kind. So that one we that was a serious conversation because she was born Lainey. She's 4 years different from Lainey. So Lainey was 4. So
I love how you did that math, by the way.
Yeah, you like that
top
shit?
notch.
crushed.
Sammy was in the picture. Lainey's bonus mom going great, and this other child is on the way. And I do remember we sat down and we're like, "Listen, she's going to be here, and they're going to be friends." And it was like no argument. No, it was like we treat her like she's ours. Done.
Nice.
And then it's like, "What do you want to eat?" It wasn't like, well, I want to think about a few things
Right.
and financial. None of that. It was like, that's Lainey's sister. She's going to be. And then, Sammy, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. We're very thankful for you.
Yeah, how about it?
You're doing a phenomenal job. Sammy's family is the exact same way.
Oh, nice.
We were there yesterday. These people have no blood relation to either of these girls, and you couldn't tell. You cannot
Yes.
fucking tell. So thank you to you guys as well. You can't fucking. They just lead with love. I'm going to love you. I'm going to accept you. This is the situation we're in, and let's fucking grow together.
Lead with love.
There
my
you go.
friends.
That is
That's
it. They just leave, and we're very fucking lucky, man. We're so lucky, and that's I was thinking about that for probably the last 48 hours of just being so fortunate that I'm not dealing with a nightmare of a fucking step parents situation. I mean, Sammy and Lainey's mom get along.
They talk
Yes.
without you around.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
not,
that.
Not a lot. I'm not a lot. But if it's like hey, we're running a little. Hey, can you pick up here? Like we were hanging out and something happened, and the pickup times. She called my phone. I didn't answer. She called Sam,
There you go.
and they figured it out, and then they told me the plan, and I was like, that's what it is.
There it is.
I mean, we're very fortunate.
Yeah, well, you're all focused on the kids, and that's
Yeah.
what we hope, and that's beautiful, dude. Yeah, I think we're in a
Yep.
great place to.
You guys want to plug anything?
Yeah, what do you
Let
got
anybody
coming
know?
up?
What do I have coming up?
You guys got
September. I guess it'll be September.
Yeah, you got
Don't-
Hershey.
We got a
Hershey,
winery coming up,
Oh, the
right? A little
26th,
seriously
yeah.
dad, like Stoudemire, whose show was great, by the way. I watched that show. Yeah, he was a great guest. So we got that coming up. I got a comedy on the Crick thing coming up. I got a Baltimore Comedy Fest coming up, and whatever I get booked on between now and then. So yeah,
yeah.
just telling jokes and doing the same shit.
That's right.
do you got?
I'm doing a Staten Island Ferry Hawks Stadium. They're like the single A for New York, and opening up for my buddy Gasper, who had been on the show
Been
as
on the
well.
show, yeah.
So he's doing a show in the stadium there. So I get to be
Nice.
on the baseball field. It's a weird place for comedy, but I'm excited to just have a notch on the belt with
Yeah,
it. So.
Jim Bryan's doing a thing at a baseball thing.
That
too.
is true. He'll be in a private box apparently, and I don't know. But it turns out too, he managed to get in where he's going to be
He's gonna
pitched
get
against.
He's gonna get
by
to
one of
take
the
some cuts.
Yeah,
I would love for
he's
that.
pumped. You should talk to him.
He
about
was because he's all about.
Very excited.
You better do well, Jim. Don't.
How about it?
We're rooting for you.
That's why I tried to pitch a Gasper. I'm like, yo, let me like throw to you and like let's do an at bat. Like,
That would be awesome.
I would totally do
cool.
that.
That would be
so
awesome.
much fun.
Heck yeah.
Or you could just go up there and go do who's on first, and then just call
That's
it a
right.
set. Just say,
Yep.
all right, see you guys later. We're out of here.
Yep. And I got some other cool news. So check out Yoder Comedy, and follow me.
Nice.
There you go.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously?
Thank you for listening to the Dads, for once. Give these daddies a break. And maybe follow, subscribe, like, and comment to the Dads on Instagram and YouTube at Seriously Dad Pod. Rate and review Seriously Dad Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Seriously, Dad?
How you doing? This is Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast, speaking on behalf of Drop 10 Media Network, the network you're currently listening to. Make sure to check out all the other podcasts on the network. You can go to drop10.com to check them all out. Make sure to like, subscribe on everything that you see Drop 10 on. We appreciate it. Go to drop10.com now.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.